Well, hello and welcome to Heritage 5. I am super excited to be your teacher for this course. My name is Miss Ingersoll, and I hope you are ready to learn much about American history. We are going to cover many different topics this year in our Heritage Studies course. We're going to start all the way back with the Native Americans, go through the early explorers, early settlements in America, to the original 13 colonies. We're going to look at the Revolutionary War, America's beginnings as a nation, the Civil War, the growth and expansion in America, the World Wars, the Civil Rights Movement, up to present-day America. And you better be hanging on for the ride because we have a lot to cover this year. Now, what about me? I wish I could get to know each one of you, but at least it would help if you knew something about me. Well, first of all, I have two siblings. I have a brother and a sister. My brother, you can see in that first picture in the green shirt making the funny face, that is my brother Samuel. You can see both of my parents there. And then in the other picture, I know I look very strange. I love to act, so that was me playing a role. And you can see my sister in the blonde hair beside my brother, who's also a blonde. And there's my grandma in that picture as well. So that is my family. I love my family very much. I'm originally from Winston-Salem in North Carolina, and I now live in the state of South Carolina. I love to read, play sports, I like to go hiking, I like to bake, I drink coffee, I love coffee, I love chocolate very much, and I very much enjoy acting, as you could see in that one picture. I've had the opportunity to play some very fun roles, but my favorite subject is history, and I am so excited that I get to teach it to you this year. Now, your book title is Heritage Studies. Why does it not just say history? When we talk about heritage, we are looking at the traditions that have been passed down from generations before. And this is our heritage as Americans. Our heritage has been passed down from our founding fathers. Now, what do you need to do well to be successful in this class? You should always come to class with your textbook. You should always have your textbook. You also should come to class with your activity manual pages from your activity manual. You should always have a pencil and your notebook. I'll talk about that in just a second. Now, the activity manual pages that you're going to need will be on your VLG. Now, what is the VLG? Well, let's take a look at it. This is what is called your video lesson guide. And you can see here you have the days. 1, 2, 3, we're on 1. So what do you need for today? Well, this is what you need to bring to class with you. These are handouts that are in your packet, and you're going to need these other items as well. These are the pages that we're going to be reading in our student text and the pages that you're going to need out of your activity manual. And then you can see over here your assignment, and this is for your facilitators. You don't need to worry about this column. But this is your assignment, what you're going to need to do after we complete each lesson. So hopefully this will help you prepare as you come to class. Now, what did I mean when I say that you need to be bringing a notebook? Well, something like, I just copied, you don't need to have a pretty thing like this at all, but you need to have something that you can keep track of the pages that we do in class. And I divided mine up with little dividers for the chapters. You can do that as well to make it simpler to keep track of pages and handouts that we do. And then we get to the end of the chapter, you can go back and study it. And it's important to keep track of the pages because you're going to need to refer back to them throughout the chapter. We will also be learning the 50 states and capitals, and you will be getting a study guide at the end of this chapter that you will not want to lose. That is what your notebook is for, is to help you to keep track of those things. I also maybe recommend making vocabulary cards while you're reading. It will help you to be able to better study the words that you need to be focusing on. So those are some tools that can help you be successful in Heritage 5. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's dive right into our first chapter. One important part about history is the time it happens and takes place. Timelines are important. They help us to show what events happened within a period of time. A timeline shows what's happened first, next, and last. A timeline can be divided into years, decades, or centuries. A decade is 10 years. A century is 100 years. A timeline is a way to organize events as you study history. Now, I want you to pull out your handout called Reading Timeline Dates. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of this information as we learn about timelines in this Heritage 5. Take a look first at how the timeline is divided up. Well, it's done in centuries, so 500 years apart. Do you notice different abbreviations that we have going on here? Do you notice those different abbreviations? Do you know what some of those mean? Well, let's start with this one right here, the CA. So let's pull down our sheet and we can see that the abbreviation CA stands for circa, which means around. So we could say that around 1400 many cultural groups exist in North America. That's what the CA stands for. Then the second one that we have is BC. What does BC stand for? Well, it stands for before Christ. So make sure you fill that out. The dates get smaller as it gets closer to when we say that Christ came. So kind of like a countdown. You can see how the numbers get smaller until we get to 0. And then it builds back up to where we are current day, present day in America. Now, the dash, I have it circled right here. How do we read that? Well, the number, we need to write this down. Number 3, the number of the dates becomes smaller as the dates get near to the time of Christ. Then let's go back to that dash. The dash in a date can be read as the word to. So we would say 1500 to 400 BC. And that last abbreviation, AD, which stands for Anno Domini, do you know what that means? Well, it means in the year of the Lord. And you can see the example right there on our sheet. All right, so those are the different abbreviations. These are things you're going to want to remember about timelines, a skill that you're going to need for life. Also, I want to start out each chapter with a timeline that has the events that we're going to be learning about in that chapter. So let's take a look at chapter 1's timeline. We are going to be learning about the Native American civilizations, and you can see this is just the time that we looked at. We can look at here, we learned about this word, right? It means around 1400. We see it pop up several times right here. First European contact with North America happened around 1492. And then you can see we learned about this abbreviation right here, and we learned about this one. You can see how our timeline, these are the different things we are going to be learning about in this chapter. Now, we have the exciting opportunity to learn America's story from the very beginning to recent happenings. And it is ultimately the story of how God is working in all things to bring about what his plan is. God chose to accomplish a lot of his plan through people. Now, America has changed much from when the Europeans first landed on her shores. But even before the Europeans came, there were people here. And the earliest Americans did not call their land America. But how did the first people get to America? I want you to go ahead and read in your student text pages 3 to 6, looking for different artifacts that help us learn about early cultures in America. Now, how should you be reading in your textbook? These are the pages that you're going to be reading. You're going to need to read through page 3, 4, 5, and be looking at your map on 6. And when you're looking, you need to be reading the titles, telling you what you're going to be reading about in that section, and then be looking for bolded words in your textbook. These are important words. And be reading, like asking questions as you're going through, trying to learn as much as you can from your reading. So what are you supposed to be focusing on as you're reading? Looking for artifacts and how they help tell us about a culture. So go ahead, pause the program, and read pages 2 to 6 in your student text. Did you find those artifacts? Let's first look at how the first people came to America. And we have a map from your textbook. And the most common view is that people came over on what is called the Bering Strait. You can see that white arrow pointing over from Russia to Alaska. And having a biblical worldview, we know that there was a worldwide flood. And this flood would have produced changes to the Earth's climate. One change being ice to form in certain parts of the globe. Because a lot of water would have frozen, historians believe that there was possibly dry land, or kind of like an ice bridge, between Russia and Alaska, allowing people to cross over. And that's how people would have gotten to the Americas. Now, how do we learn or find out about the people who lived years before us? Well, we're going to do that today, and we have 3 vocabulary words that we're going to be focusing on. We're going to be learning about archaeologist, artifact, and culture. Well, what is an artifact? You're supposed to be looking for that in your reading. Let's define artifact. An artifact is a man-made object left behind by people of the past. And an archaeologist is a person who looks for and studies artifacts to learn about the way ancient people lived. Now, the archaeologists find the artifacts, and these artifacts will tell the archaeologists different things about the people's culture. What is a culture? Well, a culture is the customs, beliefs, and creative arts of a group of people. Your textbook uses the example of a Clovis as an artifact and what it tells the archaeologist about the culture. Now, let's say we find this lamp. You're an archaeologist, you are in Greece, and you find this oil lamp. You found an artifact. You discovered, after studying it, that it was a type of lamp, and you found it in the country of Greece, and you learned that it was used with oil and was the light the people used once it got dark. It tells us some about the way they lived. It tells us a little bit about their culture. Artifacts are very helpful, but sometimes we still do not know what the artifact is or does, and it does not give us a lot of insight into the culture of the people. We're going to be learning about many different groups of people that lived in America before the Europeans came. And we have a cultural map to kind of look at all the different tribes that we're going to be looking at. We'll be looking at the people of the Southwest. We'll be looking at the Navajos and the Pueblos. Then we're going to be looking at the people in California, the Chumash tribe. Then we're going to go up to the Pacific Northwest and learn about the Makah tribe. Then we're going to go all the way up to the Arctic and learn about the Inuits. And then we're going to come back down to the plateau area and learn about the Nez Perce tribe. And then we're going to go to the middle, the plains, and we're going to learn about the Sioux tribe. We're going to go up to the northeast woodlands and learn about the Iroquois. And then down to the southeast woodlands and learn about the Cherokee. And those, of course, are just a few of the many Indian tribes today. There are 567 different tribes that are recognized by the United States government. We, of course, will not be learning about all of those, but we will be learning about the culture and traditions of those specific tribes that I mentioned. And you will have charts to help you organize the different information as we learn about them. Now, let's pull out Activity Manual, page 3, and I want to take a look at this. It kind of gives us an idea of where we're going in our chapter. We will have a page like this at the beginning of each chapter. You can see Chapter 1, Looking Ahead. And it gives us an overview of what is important to be focusing on in this chapter. We have terms. This includes many different things you should be looking for. We've got places and people, and then concepts. Like the earliest American Indians were descendants of the people of God scattered at the building of the Tower of Babel. These are things you're supposed to be looking for. And it helps us once we get to the end of the chapter to help review to make sure we've learned all the concepts that we need to know. At the beginning of most chapters, we will have what is called a map skill. This is to introduce you to a concept we are learning about, and then we will take it and apply what you learn. But let's take our first look at Off the Charts.
Welcome to my map room. I have just a few, maybe a little more than a few. I've collected them over the years during my travels here, there, everywhere. Some may call me an adventurer, an explorer, even a treasure hunter, but really, I just like to go to new places and find new or sometimes even old things. With the name Gulliver, I guess I was just meant to travel. Now, I like just about any type of map. They're all useful for something, but I think globes are probably my favorite. Some of them are decorative, with intricate designs or even expensive materials, but others are practical. Their round shape actually makes them more accurate than flat maps, which that makes sense. They're more similar to what the Earth really looks like. And they're often tilted on their axis to represent how the Earth is tilted on its axis. Now, I don't usually use a globe to plan a specific trip. There are smaller, more detailed, localized maps for that. But globes are great for getting the big picture of our world. The up and down lines of longitude and then the sideways lines of latitude are like a grid that helps people find a location. For example, I'm getting ready to go to Angel Falls, the highest waterfall in the world. Now I know that it's in Venezuela, so on the globe it falls in this section here, which is between 60 degrees and 75 degrees west and 0 degrees and 10 degrees north. Now, other maps, like the one behind me, are based on the same lines of latitude and longitude. So when I look at them, they'll have the falls at the same coordinates. Pretty cool, right? Now, globes are great because they show the big master plan of the world. And also, they're really fun to spin.
I hope you enjoyed your first off the charts learning about globes, and I want to review over the different parts of the globe. All of this should be a review to you, but these things are important to know at the very beginning of this course. And I want to make sure we're remembering all of these things. So you need to pull out your handout called Features of the Globe. Let's take a look and let's complete this page together. You can see the different things that you've learned about the globes down here. We're going to use these to fill in these questions. So first, the imaginary line that runs horizontally around the middle of the globe like a belt is called this line right here. What line is that called? The equator. So let's fill that in. The equator divides the earth into what two hemispheres? What are they? Yes, northern and southern hemispheres. Make sure that's filled in. Number 3. The equator and the lines that run parallel to the equator are called the lines of, what are these lines that run this way on the globe? They're the lines of latitude. I like to say climbing the ladder of latitude because it's like climbing a ladder, going up. Those are the lines of latitude. Maybe help you remember that. The line labeled 0 degrees that divides the east from the west is called, it's over here on this page. It's this line right here. And this is our prime meridian. It's kind of hard to see on my page. The prime meridian. And number 5, the prime meridian divides the earth into what hemispheres? It's the eastern and western hemispheres. Number 6, the prime meridian and non-parallel lines that run blank and blank are called the lines of, these lines here. What do we call these lines? Yes, they're the lines that run north and south. And they're the lines of longitude. And you could think of it as long, being long. Maybe that'll help you remember that they're longitude. Now, the lines of longitude touch at the blank and blank. Well, the North and South Pole. And just squeeze the words in as best you can. They don't give us a lot of room. Number 8, the blank is located at 180 degrees longitude. So what is located at 180 degrees longitude? Here it is over here. It's kind of hard to see. And this is called the international date line. And we're going to have fun fitting this one in. Let's see if we can get it in. International. And then date. And I'm going to write line underneath of it. All right, there's number 8. Now number 9. A major landform on the earth is called a continent. The 7 continents are, do you know the 7 continents? They're right here for you. So we need to write those in. They're Africa, Antarctica, Australia, Asia, Europe, North America, and South America. You can fill all of those in there. And then the 5 oceans. The 5 oceans. These are the Arctic Ocean, Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, Pacific, and Southern. So make sure you fill all this in and make sure you get all the 7 continents. Globes are important. They help give us a 3-dimensional spherical scale of the earth. And we get to make one today in class. We'll get to that in a second, but let's review over it. What are the lines that go this way on the globe? lines of latitude. What about this way? These are our lines of longitude. And we are currently looking at the Western Hemisphere. If we turned the globe around, we would be looking at the Eastern Hemisphere. What hemisphere is on top here? The Northern Hemisphere. And then we have the Southern Hemisphere. On the line, we learned about the equator that runs through it, and then the prime meridian is located right about in Africa. I can't exactly point to it, but right there is where our prime meridian is located. All right, that's a quick review over the globe. Now, we are going to be making, as I said, our own little globe in class today. And I want you to be using this throughout Heritage 5, being able to see where things are located in connection with others. It's a nice little tool to keep with you. So you're going to need scissors. You can use glue or tape, and you're also going to need a styrofoam ball about 3 inches. We need to pull out Activity Manual, page 1. And what you're going to need to do first is you're going to need to basically cut this out. So take your scissors, and you're going to need to cut out along the lines. Don't cut in between here. You're going to need to leave this connected, but cut here along lines. So pause the program and go ahead and cut this out. Should have cut it out, and it should look like this. And now the next step that we need to do, so we need to take this, and we need to take our little styrofoam ball, and we need to tape it or glue it to it. So I'm going to try to show you how to do this, if I can do this. I'm going to take some tape, and I'm going to I'm going to first put this one on right here. And then I'm going to put the bottom on right there. I'm going to go ahead and connect that one to it as well. Do you see how I'm doing this? And then you're just going to go around, and you're going to put the pieces together like this. It's a little challenging. If you need someone to help you, get someone to help you. But see, you should just go on like this around your globe, and you're going to want to tape and glue it around like that. So go ahead, pause the program, and finish your globe. This is what your globe should hopefully look like. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is what it should look like, and I'll show you a little bit closer view so you can see. See, mine's not perfect. I didn't quite get it all lined up perfectly, but see, it's great. When we talk about Europe, you can point to it exactly where it is, and then coming across the Atlantic Ocean, you can see more visibly what we're talking about. You can actually hold it and touch it and point to it. And I hope this globe will be very helpful for you in this course with the many different things that we're going to be learning. Now, I would highly recommend having it with you for class, so bring it with you. And every so often, we are going to get to have what I call interesting facts in our lessons. Most of them are strange facts having to do with history that you would never guess, but I think they're kind of cool. So let's take a look at our very first one. The Aztecs in Mexico used cocoa beans as money. And of course, we know that we get chocolate from cocoa. So the Aztecs thought chocolate was good enough to use as money. Kind of a cool fact. I hope you're excited and ready to learn about U.S. history, and in particular this chapter, how each of the Indian groups used the resources and skills that God gave them in different unique ways. You will need to complete the rest of your assignment, and there will be a slide that comes up after that tells you exactly what you need to do. And also you can look at that VLG, shows you what you need to complete for today. I will see you next time as we continue Chapter 1 in Heritage 5.